Welcome back to the much anticipated episode of Booklings. So it has been 17 years since our previous episode. My
We
sister now has
I have,
four kids and a mortgage.
yeah, and they're going to college.
uh, we're still doing a podcast, so you can't afford a college for your kids. Anyways, so my name is Jian. I am the best bookling, and this is my sister.
My name is Nikki, and I am the best and brightest.
Yeah. And this week we have a very interesting book. It is the famous It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So the new book, it starts with us. By the way, I'm not even joking. We predicted that title. So the sequel to It Ends With
Yeah.
Us recently came out, or it's about to come out. I'm not sure. It depends where you are, actually. And I think we're probably going to do a review of that once we get a hand once we get our hands on a copy. But we figured we might as well review the first book first. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite books of all time. This touched me deeply, and like honestly, it felt like I was reading for I don't know, just like a few minutes because it just flew right off the page for me. The words like poetry.
No one gets sarcasm via podcast. When will you learn this?
Okay, so that was just to test our listeners. Anyone who agreed with whatever I just said, you can leave the call. You can leave the audio
No, no,
recording now.
no, no. It's okay. You can stay because I will defend this book.
You
And usually
barely,
I'm
I
the
bet
right
you barely
one.
remember it. I bet you remember a different book. I bet you remember To Kill a Mockingbird or something.
How
Like
dare you?
there's
I
no way we're
remember
actually
that movie vividly.
there's yeah, that's a story for another time. But anyways, for those of you who don't know it, It Ends With Us is a story about a young woman, Lily Bloom, who at age 23 um decides to open up her own flower shop. Um and
I
basically
kid
it's
you
about
not. That's her
that's
name,
that's her
and
name.
she's
Her
doing
name
a
is
flower shop.
actually yeah, her name is actually Lily Blossom Bloom. No, it's Lily Rose Blossom Bloom, I think. But it gets worse. It just gets worse.
It,
Uh
it's Dahlia, actually.
God damn. But
I
and then
remember her full name.
she meets the neurosurgeon in his residency, Ryle Kincaid. Yes, that is a name that someone thought, hey, this is a real name, and I'm gonna put it in a book, and it's not a fantasy book, and people will accept that it's a real name. So I'm gonna repeat it again, Ryle Kincaid. Now, for the people named Ryle listening to this, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. Your life is unfortunate.
I just want for us to go through one episode where we don't insult the listeners. There's just every episode where we do this.
Every Ryle in history is gonna be mad, and I'm willing to take the heat for that.
No,
Uh
no, no. To be honest, don't you dare insult Ryle. The name Atlas. I
Oh
think that.
yes. So when she was younger, this is interesting to note. So the book takes place over two time periods, basically. Um, and one is present day, where she is 23, and then one is when she's a teenager. And these takes place like this is written in the form of diary entries or like letters to Ellen Degeneres. You see, for everyone for everyone listening, who is aware of the controversy around Ellen DeGeneres, this book was written before the controversy. So the main character is a huge fan of Ellen DeGeneres, and instead of writing a normal Dear Diary thing, because ill, she writes each entry like a letter to Ellen DeGeneres. And
And don't
wow,
forget her obsession with Finding Nemo.
oh god, yeah, and she keeps making references to Dory. And then and during the time when she was a teenager, it discusses how her father was abusive towards her mother, and how she meets a homeless boy named Atlas, and how, well, eventually her abusive father discovers this, and he basically beats the kid half to death, and then yeah. So now it's worth noting, like, this is already, maybe the Ellen thing, maybe that's not so egregiously bad, but what makes it worse is these entire chapters are italicized.
Italicized. It drove
Like,
me crazy.
just put the date at the top of the chapter, just say, or like, because she starts each
Look,
one like "Dear Ellen" or something anyways,
yeah,
so we know it's a diary entry, like
I
we
get
know.
something that when you italicize things in the book when you kind of do that, but that's only like if it's a paragraph, not
At
an
most.
entire chapter where
And
you
she does it over
freaking
several chapters.
yeah, so that really bothered me. That's probably
Yeah.
one of the things that bothered me. And a lot of the times it kind of dissuaded me from reading the entire thing
Yeah.
because because it was just annoying to see. Like, look, I get it. It's the past. And plus the back and forth, it was so jarring. Like, I know that
Yeah.
she was trying to connect the past to present, but it just doesn't work that way. It like it didn't flow. It's kind of like those
Yeah.
movies where they go back to present, future, or current, and then it's not implied. Like you're supposed to just be able to tell by their makeup. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's not how it's gonna work.
Like, there's something that I've noticed in a lot of books though, where they do these flashback sequences to show, oh, so that's how these characters turned out the way they are. I like to do this test with a lot of books. I didn't do it with It Ends With Us, um, and I wish I did. But I like to read any book with a huge chunk of flashbacks. I try to read the entire book without reading those flashbacks, and then see how I liked it. And then I go back and then I read those flashbacks and see what it added to it, or if it added to it at all. And I'm positive if I did that test for this book, so I reread it. Like, I quickly skimmed the entire book, but ignored all of the flashback sequences, and I realized I did not miss a single thing because she explains everything in the present day anyway.
Yeah,
Perhaps the only thing is like the initial description of Atlas is interesting to know,
yeah,
or the description of her dad, because her dad is dead in present day. Maybe that stuff is essential, but everything else she re-explains anyways. And I mean, actually, even Atlas's appearance, she re-explains it because in the present day he looks different, so she makes comparisons to how he looked in the past. So even that is not necessary. Um,
yeah. So
so
wait, by the way, I read this book twice. Only like I reread it when we were supposed to do it, 5 years ago.
yeah,
Like we've been talking about doing the review for so long. So I reread it at the time. And I did the same where I skipped the flashbacks because I mean, it was really redundant for me. Like, I get what she's trying to do, like to kind of portray Lily's, growth, but there was none. Like,
yeah,
I know what she was trying to do, but it just failed in that sense because it took the reader out of the emotional turmoil that you were going through at the present day, and then you just went back to her childhood. So it for me it was just like, wait, you already got me so emotional, stop doing this.
yeah.
And I know Jian would disagree that he didn't get emotional at all. Like he doesn't understand what I would feel aside from anger from reading this
Anger,
book.
yes, anger. I had a lot of anger, so that is an emotion. I think it's an underrated emotion, actually. Um, but yeah, this is just not a good book. So the book deals with the with abuse, and actually, there's a really great author's note at the end where she discusses how her own life, has been shaped by abuse, and how she saw it from a young age with her parents, and how it affected her image of her mom and her dad. So I thought, I think, to be honest, if she just wrote like an autobiography of her childhood, it would have been a way better book. But whatever she wrote here, it is not it. So basically, Ryle turns out to be abusive, and everyone is shocked, and the main character is so shocked. And the only person who wasn't shocked, I think, was me and the abusive boyfriend slash husband, I guess. No, just boyfriend. Like the abusive boyfriend's sister, who even from the beginning seemed hesitant about her new best friend dating her abusive brother. Okay, so let me explain how the guy was introduced. Ryle Kincaid. I swear to God, if that isn't the name of a wife beater, I don't know what is. So in the very first chapter, he's actually introduced in the very first chapter when the main character is on the roof and she just wants a piece of solitude, you know, because she just delivered the worst eulogy for her deceased
I
dad.
feel like we're describing the entire book though.
No, no,
Whenever
no, no.
we do these
I'm just gonna
podcasts,
describe.
this is the
I'm
problem.
I'm gonna pinpoint exactly when I realized that this guy was abusive. So then the guy comes out onto the rooftop. He doesn't notice her at first, and there's some patio furniture, like a chair, and then he proceeds to like do his best to destroy the chair. And that's when I knew that he was abusive. Like normal human beings do not just randomly go out and destroy furniture that doesn't belong to them. I feel
No,
like, are we
and
not are we ignoring that fact? Like it's just there and then you're just like destroying it. That's weird. That
no,
is not
but the
normal.
problem is I have a boss. I've had bosses who do that. So to me, maybe that's why it didn't strike as,
Yeah. And
oh,
those
he's
people are
abusive.
abusive. Those people are abusive. Okay, so
No,
that's
but I think
strike number
no,
one.
but also like that's the difference is it's not like he was just, pummeling the wall from frustration. He was destroying the furniture,
He
throwing it
was
like
wrecking it.
really violently, and
Yeah.
he was like in a rage. And that's the thing. Like I wasn't surprised either that he was a wife beater. No, I mean the whole concept of the story, how it was introduced, it was obvious that it was leading to her going to an abusive relationship. But I just, what I really liked about the book is that you're in this perspective where you you finally empathize how,
No.
children of abusers or like, victims of abuse, why they go into this cycle. You understand it. I mean, as much as you want to criticize it, because you're different. Like for you, you see a lot of red flags, and whenever you're like, okay, I'm out. This was so obvious. But the thing is, you're also toxic. Like you've been in toxic relationships, so you actually are not valid. Like you are being hypocritical.
Yeah, see,
And
that's
this
the thing
book,
though. Like, I feel like there's a difference between having like a possessive or controlling partner and having a partner who hits you.
emotional
I feel like
abuse
there's a
is
little
the
bit of a difference.
same concept as
No, but like, I feel like one is easier to identify than the other, right? Can we agree on that? So for me, when I see a guy
no,
just
but
destroy
that's not
furniture, I'm like, okay,
But
that's
that's
not a
not
good
the
sign.
issue though. That's not the issue. Like if you read the book, Jian, like for real, like I try to understand it from her perspective. I think that's the difference because maybe you're a guy, and so you're automatically like, why would you go into this?
Oh.
But her perspective is just like she wants to fix him. And it's
That
just
is
because she was
that is oh no, that is the
No,
worst.
because that's what I'm saying. But there are people like that, and it's also because of their history. Like they don't notice, like she kind of put her value into her being stronger, forgiving. Like in a way, it was her trying to, it was like in a sick way, like her using Ryle as like the father figure she could never forgive. And that's what she was in, like in her mind. And of course, I don't relate to this. Like I cannot. But that's what I loved about Colleen Hoover. Like you kind of you got to empathize with someone like that because a part of me before reading this book was like you, which is strange because you didn't come out of it learning anything. It's just
No,
anger.
because
No, but
see,
wait, just let me.
whatever you're describing, that's a completely different book. Because I don't empathize with someone because from the very beginning, she basically threw herself into an abusive situation. Now, what I'm talking about is if you want to do what you just described, which is a way better book, by the way. Like I would love to read that book, whatever that book is called. But
It's the same book.
it is not because okay, do you want to know when the abuse happens? Let me check my notes. It happens in chapter 14. Okay. Now
Was it that soon?
keep in mind a lot of the chapters are flashback, right? So in reality, the real life
Was it
chapters is like 8
page
chapters.
14 already?
No, chapter 14.
Mm.
Chapter 14.
Oh, chapter 14. You said page 4. Okay, then that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Out
that
of
one.
35 chapters, by the way. So that's the first time that something happens. Okay. You know how long they had been dating at that point?
A week or something. I don't know. A
Like
month.
not even 2 months. Not even 2 months. Okay. They no, not even, I think not even a month. Yeah. She had only like slept with him very recently at that point. So
Hmm.
the thing you're describing is
No,
something
it
where,
says 3 months. How odd to have a boyfriend for over 3 months.
oh, was it 3 months? Okay, wow, 3 months. But the thing what you're describing is, I imagined like you see, oh, you fall in love with the guy, and that's what makes you empathize with her. But like from the very beginning, what makes you want to fix someone when he has no redeeming qualities? Because he actually doesn't from the very beginning. The first time that like his main move to her was when he knocked on 29 apartments to look for hers so he can beg her to have sex with him. Just so, and he said like, I promise after we have sex, I'll forget about you. Like we was done. Like that, how's that charming? Like how much, what self, like in what universe where self-respect exists is that charming? Like
But
that is
that's the thing.
charming.
She didn't have any self-respect.
No,
That was what.
like she have self-respect because she agreed. She said, "Let me just take a
No,
shower so
that's
we
what
can
I'm
have sex."
saying. That's what I'm saying. She didn't have any self-respect.
No,
I don't think you read the same book. Like that's
no,
the point of it.
no, but like,
She
how are you gonna empathize with someone that, like, from the very beginning, she's just not a relatable character at all? Because this is not real. Like, there's
I
no way a human
didn't
being
say
would be
she
like,
was relatable.
no, but
I
I
didn't say
can't
she was
empathize
no, but
with an unrelatable character.
there are people who are like that. The thing is, I've met people like that, and I've never been able to empathize until I read this book. Because I always think like, how could someone be this insecure or like think their self-worth is so beneath them that they would just sleep with someone like that?
That's the thing. I
And
don't.
now I understand. You don't know anyone who's like that, or
No, I do know people like that, and I don't like them. I don't want to read their
no
stories.
one's saying you have to like.
Yeah, but like, I feel like if you're gonna read a book and enjoy it, you should probably like one character in the entire book.
No, I'm not saying that the characters were likable. I mean, except Atlas. I think I liked Atlas, and that's only because we didn't really know much of
Yeah.
his character. So maybe that would change, and it starts with us. But I just really love the how the perspective. 'Cause again, it's the first type of book that I've read like this, where it's about abuse. So that's probably why I found it beautiful in that sense, because you could really feel, like you said, I mean, it must have been better if it was in an autobiography, but you could really feel what she went through, like the author, through this story. It was her like kind of sharing her experience or whatever, like
Actually, no.
you're so
Like,
awful. No, but it's like
no,
her.
I'm being serious. Like, I felt it during the flashbacks. Yes, the during the flashbacks, but that's the thing that felt disingenuous actually, because when it reached the part for like present day, and it's the main character going through her abuse, it didn't feel real. It felt contrived to me. Whereas in the flashbacks, it felt so real because I think the author was referring to her own memories and experiences witnessing her mother being abused. Like
Yeah,
that's
no, I'm not
like
talking about like her personal, like
no, but
if
like
you
you
read.
yeah, but like most of the book is about present day Lily, and so if present day Lily, if the entire thing just
No, but
feels
it
fake,
doesn't matter
like
which side you're talking about, like whether it's the flashback or the present day, you still got that perspective of how it is for someone in an abusive situation.
yeah, but like
Like
what I'm saying
even if you
is
didn't like it or you didn't connect, like you found it disconnected or disingenuous because it was just stupid how Lily was acting in present day. But it's at the end of the day, the author was able to portray a perspective of someone being in an abusive relationship and not understanding like that they can actually make it end. Like they went into that relationship voluntarily and then they just continue to let it happen. Because that's not something that you really read in most books unless you want to read those dark things. And this was just interesting because it was told as a romance. So that's why I was like, oh, this is really cool what they did because you didn't expect that um like she was trying to show how Lily fell in love with this guy who was clearly an abuser and trying to justify this whole love story in her mind and
yeah,
then you having to accept that it's not the love story. Like
yeah,
it's really not a love story.
well, so go back to it, like if only the flashbacks felt real, and there's only 25% of the book, then that means 75% of the book was just the worst thing ever. So that's why I didn't enjoy it. But another part
No,
is
but I'm saying
no, no,
that's
no. But
how
another
you felt
no, but another
though.
part is another part is I agree that like introducing it as a romance with a really good concept. So I that's why I read it because I was like, okay, that's something new. However, she doesn't give us a chance to fall in love with Riley Kincaid. That's my point. Because it does a time skip. Like it goes from the first time that they got together to, as you said, 3 months later, and then abuse. So when am I supposed to actually think like this guy, he can be fixed? It kept telling me, not showing me, like kept telling me this is the perfect human being ever. With one slight flaw, he beats people, he beats women. That's oh, what a slight flaw. I mean, well, but like I never saw the perfection. The most perfect thing about him, his brother-in-law is filthy rich. That is, you know what? That is perfect. Thank you. Like,
Yeah,
it,
that's what's funny about it because it focused on the side characters, like her relationship with the, best friend, the
yeah,
sister, and then the brother-in-law, how they had such a good relationship.
yeah.
But I think it's because everything was superficial. Like it was, I mean, superficial in that sense with Ryle, because she wanted to get abused. So that's, I admit to that. Like that was a problem. And then at the same time, maybe she just didn't want you to fall in love with him too much.
No, and
Or she
but
probably thought it was sufficient enough
no,
that you
but
saw
that
him as this perfect surgeon, this perfect life, blah blah blah.
but that's the thing. I felt like it was disrespectful to like actual victims of abuse because it kind of for me, like let's say this is the first book with domestic abuse I've ever read. It wasn't like, but let's say it was. I don't know. I would have left feeling like, okay, so that's all it takes, like 3 month time skip, and his guy and everyone telling you that this guy's perfect, like then that means we can fix this tiny, small terrible fault. You know how long it takes for in the book for her to forgive him after she after she gets hit for the first time.
Within the same moment.
Yeah, 6 pages. It's 6 pages. That's how
No, but
fast she
it's
forgives
also
him.
no, it's not just 6 pages. It's within the moment.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't like a day after or
it
something.
wasn't. It's 6 pages.
Because she assumed it was an accident. Like in her brain, like she was like, "Oh, he was just upset, and it's his surgeon hand." I mean, for me, I can't. That's why I keep saying empathize. I can't sympathize too much because, like, girl, it's 3 months. You can break up with him. Like, and it's so obvious that, she was willing to go with the friends with benefits phase first, or not even friends with benefits, just like have random sex. So she could have easily like cut it off, but
Mm-hmm.
she just wanted to make it work. I think yeah, that's a difference because you can't, but we're not talking about sympathizing or even like, I guess for you you can't even empathize, but I kind of get it because I've also read, like, after this I've read other books that has abuse in it, and not necessarily that it was a romance, but it was part of the, because I read crime novels, so it's part of the storyline, and you see the victims of abuse and everything over there, and it actually happens where it's like the beginning of the relationship, they're abused and they're okay with it, they accept it. So this wasn't the first time, and a lot of the, I've also read like another book where it was a doctor again who was abusive, so a part of me is like, okay, stay away from doctors, that's the moral lesson here.
Yeah. I mean,
But
like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm just saying, if she, like, if she cut 2 flashback chapters, if she cut 2 flashback like moments, she could have fit in at least
and
two
focused
chapters
on,
about
yeah,
how perfect Ryle is. Because the thing is, I felt like the part where he hits her for the first time, that was supposed to be a rug pull moment that should have felt like, oh my god, I was supposed to gasp. I felt like there was a pause in the scene for me to gasp. I didn't gasp because I was just like, well, yeah, that's, and how cliche that he did it when they were in the middle of cooking and the dish got messed up. Like what come on. Like it's just uh
I
it
swear though that the show that I was talking about read that book and was inspired because there was an episode where she wasn't cooking or anything. They were like dancing in the backyard, and then the glass fell like while he turned her, and it was like a crystal whatever they were celebrating. And then the guy was literally um like, mistakes happen, as my mom says, blah blah blah, like it was something random, and then he like goes near her, and then he's like, but you keep making mistakes, and then knocks her out. And I was like, holy shit,
okay, well,
this
to be
is
fair to
Colleen
Ryle,
Hoover.
to be fair to Ryle,
Yeah, he didn't know.
it wasn't that
But
like
this, yeah,
menacing.
I know.
That sounds
But
menacing
this
as
one
hell.
was really serial killer, and I was like, this actor
Yeah.
is so good because he really portrayed it where you're like, like you keep flinching every time he smiles at you. You're like, oh my god, he's gonna hit her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
But
then
anyway,
another
the
and another thing.
point
This is
is, sir, it's a great book.
no, okay, so here's this part is a spoiler, by the way. So for people who still actually want to read this book after listening to all this, and you don't want to be spoiled, maybe you can skip. I'll put the timestamps in the description. But near the end of the book, after she's been abused multiple times, by the way, and stayed with him throughout the entire thing,
Mm.
he the guy's sister and her best friend convinces her to talk to him, to give him a chance to for him to explain why he's a monster. And then he explains that when he was a kid he accidentally killed his sibling because he was playing with a gun. And for me, I was just, that was the worst scene in the book, I think. I think I like if there was one, I know I've been talking about the flashback scenes this entire time as if they're the worst thing ever, but like that was probably the worst thing in the entire book, and that really left a sour taste in my mouth. Because although he says like this, I know this doesn't explain, well, like this doesn't excuse my behavior, but there was that implication that like, but see, I'm not completely terrible, like I have a reason to be messed up. And it's like, but the truth is a lot of abusers don't have a reason like that. And I just feel like it was apologize, like it was a last ditch effort to just like make the reader think, but he isn't that bad, because at the end of the book she has a child with him and they're on good terms, and you can't have them on good terms if he's so terrible, right? But now we have that boom, like, oh, he killed his sibling when he was a kid, he's traumatized, he's messed up, blah blah. So it's all good, it's all good, it's perfect, he's perfect, he's still perfect, like he, yeah, sure, it's like he should just date someone who likes BDSM, right? And I
It
thought it was so
baffles me
cheap and
that you can
awful.
sympathize more with you than this. Like this
because
drives you on crazy.
because
This one
with
drives you crazy.
you he is so terrible, and they do not apologize for it. Like it is, he is just like inexcusably bad, like he is a murderer, he's a serial killer, he's a monster. But this one is
No,
like
they still
he,
tried to put redeeming traits. Remember, like they tried to justify he was abused by that man, like, and he
yeah, yeah, well they
was
showed that he,
um
well they showed that he abused that man and then he killed a woman the next episode. So
no,
it's
and then
like,
he no, and then he balances it out by helping the kid, like he always helps someone on each season, and I'm like, seriously, dude, that
I,
does not even up the scales.
yeah, for me, like I don't really see that as like them trying to excuse his behavior the way this felt like. Like for me, it was just like, really, like, do we need this? Does it add anything? Like I think it would be
No,
so
but
much better
that's
if
true.
the
I
character was
can
just
agree to
abusive. Like
that.
he was just like, what, there's just something terrible about this
No,
guy.
I think the um it might be because it was the author in a way romanticizing um like,
Abuse.
yeah, I think to some extent she made that like she was thinking like it's not black and white, like that
Yeah.
was what she's trying to portray, and which I think she doesn't even realize sends the wrong message, because it's kind of like, well, you have to forgive your abusers at some point, which is not
Mm,
always the case. An abuser will not change, they'll continue to abuse you. A
mm-hmm.
lot of these domestic abuse cases, they are murdered in the end because they keep
Yeah.
forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely the wrong message to send. But I
Yeah.
really thought this book was interesting in that sense, because it was a fresh take of making it into a romance somehow. But I'm not saying it's a great, like, she executed it well. Like, let's be honest, like this was the first Colleen Hoover book I read, and it suited the timing. Like I was just like, oh, this is so interesting, because you never think about how
Yeah.
before an abuse began, there's a woman in there who's trying to love that abuser.
Yeah.
Like you don't see, like, even as she's being abused, she's finding ways to excuse everything, and it's just him trying to protect me. It's him because he has so much pressure at work, like he didn't mean it, like whatever. So I found that really captivating for a first type of book that I read this way, because like I said, I read crime novels a lot, so you always see the perspective where, oh, this abuser is gonna get caught, like killed, blah blah blah. Like that's like the concept. But this
Mm-hmm.
one, it was showing this romance with
Yeah.
them. Like obviously it wasn't, yeah, the time skips were just jarring. And like I said, because of the flashbacks, you're like, wait, what happened now? Like you forgave him already, and then what? And then
Yeah.
yeah, and it was just so stupid. Like, but I totally get the sister though, because she was in a tough place.
No,
At the
actually,
end
the
of the
sister
day,
was the best
that's her
character.
brother. Yeah,
Yeah.
she was the best character. At
But
the
she
end of the
still
day,
tried
that's her
to
brother.
warn her in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was like,
She
yes,
tried to warn
good.
her. And then in the end, she's like, but that's my brother. He'll go crazy if she loses
Yeah.
her. So kind of that whole,
I mean,
and
even then,
the
she
thing that
told
I
her, you
found,
can still leave
the,
him. You should still leave him,
this,
but at
yeah,
least listen to the explanation. And I was like, yes, that's realistic.
the,
That's actually too nice of her.
no, but the thing that was stupid, in all of this is how quick she was. Like, you know how the engagement happened? Do you
Hmm.
remember?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, it actually came from her.
Yeah.
And I was just like, huh, where did that come from? Like,
Yeah.
what? I really couldn't figure out the timeline at that point anymore because I was like, how long has it been? And
Yeah.
then,
I think a lot of this book can be
yeah.
fixed. A lot of the problems can be fixed with Colleen Hoover just, you know, churning out 10 more chapters. Like I think she's just very impatient. Some of my favorite parts in the book, I just wanted to point out, was the parts with her mother, especially near the ending,
Oh,
where
yeah,
she
yeah, yeah.
talks with her
Yeah.
mother about the abuse that her mother experienced. And I think like I said earlier, it's because that's actually close to the truth of what the author has experienced herself.
Yeah.
And like I think that's really cool. Like those parts are really good. And it's just this fantasy scenario that she made up about Ryle and Atlas. Like that stuff just felt uh, like it felt like the worst CW show I've ever seen. Like it was like at some point I felt like it was Riverdale. Like some of the character decisions there.
That's true.
It felt like Riverdale. And then the scenes where with her mother, where she's talking, where she had that good conversation with her near the end, that felt more like, oh, this is an HBO prestige drama. This is this is deep. This goes to the heart of abuse. Um, but yeah, I feel like she just didn't commit to the concept. She didn't commit to the romance turning into abuse aspect. She didn't commit to um like Ryle just being a bad guy. Like I there's a scene early on in the book. Hold on. I have my notes here. Let's see. Duh, 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 duh. There's a scene in the first chapter, there's page 24, where Ryle says, there is no such thing as bad people. We're all just people who sometimes do bad things. Now, I know he's a doctor, so he's not supposed to be good with words, but wow, are we Jesus Christ, talk about ninth grade fucking literature class shit right here, right? But so let's ignore that part. But I I to a certain extent I agree, but then like just don't cop out, Colleen. Like just commit. Like this is a bad guy. Like just like sometimes there's no reason for abuse. Sometimes they're a product of their time. Sometimes like sometimes they're just born wrong. Sometimes they're a product of their environment. There are a lot of different things, but like just coming up with the like, oh, he got the gun and then shot his brother. I was just like, really? Like that's so random. Like, is this gonna turn into uh gun control PSA right now? Like, I thought we were on the domestic abuse thing, but now we're on a gun control PSA thing. Okay, well, I guess we can combine both. It's just good and all, but it just felt so out of left field. Um, and but yeah, that's my main thoughts about this book. If I were to rate it out of 10, I would give it a solid, very solid 4 out of 10. And as the last thing I'll say before I let you defend it, I have like this super petty note here, super like extremely petty. Even for me, I was just like, really, you cared this much? But I have to point it out. On page 20, she's talking with Ryle, right? And she says, but I have a master's degree in business. Now, I have been alive for 24 years. I've never heard anyone say master's degree in business. People who have a master's degree in business will say, I have an MBA. Like, I have actually never heard anyone call it like master's degree in business. It's MBA. Like, like everyone with an MBA cannot wait to tell you that they have an MBA. First of all, I literally don't know a single human being who's ever come to me. Yeah, I'm studying for a master's in business. Like, no, I am studying for my MBA, because they think like by saying it like that, it sounds like the NBA, so it seems way cooler than it actually is. But yeah, so that's just a minor, like that's the pettiest thing I can come up with. But yes, 4 out of 10.
That was the pettiest thing after all
That
your,
would be
your
0
tirade
Pettiest,
recently.
yes,
Like that was the pettiest thing.
that was it. Yeah.
No, but like I said, I'm defending it in the sense that you get a different perspective, and it was just for me because I haven't read many books like this where you romanticize abuse. That's basically what it was. Like that it showed her perspective as the victim. Because you never see that where, wait, how did she get to this point? You always, every book I've read, again, it leads to either death and it's an investigation, or it's them trying to get rid of the abuser. And it's like, Gone Girl moment, except the girl is the abuser.
Oh,
But
Gone Girl, that's a great reference. Wow.
but again, it was fresh. I haven't read one like this. So that's why I'm defending it, because it the entire time you're just like, what why did she do this to herself? Because there were so many signs, like it was just crazy how quickly it happened. But when you do read about abuse, like those in abusive relationships, a lot of them are like this, where it's a whirlwind type of romance. That's why whirlwinds are like really scary, because whether it's emotional or physical abuse, it's always
Yeah.
those quick things where you'll see those that get, married right away, or they live together immediately,
Yeah.
and then later to find
Mhm.
out, oh, they were abusing her, or
Mhm.
like, vice versa. I
And
mean,
you have a lot of
recently,
experience with whirlwind romances as well.
I actually don't, so I can attest to it, like
I'm
not
terribly
being
surprised,
abusive. I I can,
because like
for
you got
once,
married immediately. So
for
yeah,
once,
you
I
got
cannot.
married immediately after you met your now husband. Like what was it? A couple days and 10 years after the day you met? That's pretty soon, isn't it?
Exactly. Actually, it was 12 years after we met. 10 years of our relationship, but 12 years after we met. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it really does happen. Like, I think that's why she did those time skips, because she, like you said, she was impatient at the same time, but she also thought, like, um, this is how it happens. It's like those quick, simple moments where you're suddenly like, it's the mundane where everything's so perfect, and then it time skips, and like someday he blows up over
Mm-hmm.
nothing. And a lot of the time it really is like that, because I have so I haven't read books any books recently about abuse, but I have read articles of real life stories. There was this one man, he was trapped during the pandemic, because he, again, whirlwind romance type of thing. He started living with her right away, like after a month that they met, because the pandemic was about to, go crazy. So they decided to live together. And then it took him a year of him almost dying before he tried to get out. And that was like, it depended on her mood. So they were perfect one day, and then another day she would throw boiling water at him, or like put up put off her cigarette on him. Like he had so many scars and it was just insane how he put up with it. But it was like that, where it was like a time skip. He was like, I can't even remember the first moment it happened. It was pretty soon,
Yeah.
blah blah. But you know, it's like a lot of manipulation. So that's why I understand now reading this book, like the perspective. Of course, you know, a lot of it is fiction and a lot of this doesn't seem realistic. There's like the engagement thing was so unrealistic to me, like how it jumped to that.
Yeah.
And um and then they blow past the engagement and marriage. It's like it skips again, like, oh, it was 6 weeks, we're so happily married, blah blah blah. And then another abusive situation happens. So I get that. That is the one that's jarring for the author to do, because it doesn't give you room to breathe. Like you, it just keeps saying, oh, we have the perfect marriage now, or we have the perfect relationship, but it doesn't show it. It's just her saying it all the time.
Mm.
It's a I think it's what most authors, like in the beginning, they make the mistake of, where you know how some authors kind of want to portray strong women characters. So what they do is they constantly mention how smart, strong, independent the woman is without showing it.
Yeah.
So this is what happened with this book. So I will agree with you on that, but I will still say it was a really good, like I think the author is really good at writing. It's just that for this book it's not as perfect as everyone, you know, proclaims, because you'll see the hype, right? Like how
Yeah.
people make it seem like they were so shocked about Ryle and whatever. So that I also don't agree. Like it was very clear he was gonna be an abuser. Like that. I mean, the beginning alone, like the fact that she sets the premise of abuse and how she never understood her mother for being in one. Like I was like, ah, okay, so she's gonna get the lesson now. Like it was so obvious. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, okay. So, so that's what I agree with you, where you you don't understand how people were shocked that he was doing those things. Like I know that author, like the first instance of physical abuse towards her, it was supposed to be so shocking. And yeah, you wouldn't get that moment because you predict that he's an abuser. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it would still have the moment of shock with uh how instant it can happen, like instantaneous it can happen. Like
Yeah, I
a
mean, I
lot of
think
the
that's true.
times people think it's like it has to be a massive argument first, you know, like she had to yell at him back and then he just pummels her. But then this side, I think that's what was kind of realistic. Like it shows that an abuser will not wait for an opportunity. Like if you do something that they do not like, they'll just start with the physical abuse immediately. It's not like, because a lot of people, you know, a lot of shows or movies tend to show like a build up where they're like, oh my God, I didn't mean to slap you. Like we were just in an argument and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, it was just like she was laughing in one moment and then he gets violent.
Yeah.
So that would be the shock factor, I think. That's why for most people it was shocking. But for you, it won't be because you have read a lot and watched a lot of dark shit.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
you
I've
just
been
weren't
watching a
going
lot
to
of
fall in.
like I've been watching a lot of cop shows, and I love how cop shows depict domestic abuse and violence, especially the cop shows that aren't how do you say, politically correct, because a lot of like some cop shows like Chicago PD, they actually break the law a lot. Surprise, surprise, the police break the law. But whenever they have like a wife beater or
Shocking.
something, they always beat the shit out of them. And those moments are
Yeah.
just like the most enjoyable moments ever. I'm just like, oh, like yeah, that's what should happen to Ryle. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
probably what I
Oh, can
didn't
I
like
point out,
about
like
Rookie.
we never had a moment where Ryle gets like what he deserves. Can we talk about that? Like
Yes.
he gets equal custody of his child when he should have no custody
Yes.
as punishment, you know?
And
Like,
she was, you know, she was just so friendly with everything. Like, look, let's save our relationship. We still love each other and blah blah. And I was like,
uh,
I get it though. I get it though from what the author was pertaining to. Lily is just a weak bitch.
yeah,
I don't think the author meant that. Like she
she
was meant to
wasn't.
be a very compassionate individual, but it was consistent. Let's agree though, that was a consistent flaw of her character because she was wishy-washy about that sort of thing. You know, I got it. Like when that happened, I was like, I knew it. They were gonna make him, just forget about it. Like they excused it because of his childhood trauma, which by the way, that kind of childhood trauma is kind of indicative of a serial killer. It
Yeah,
shouldn't have been meant to be a sympathizing moment. Like that's why he doesn't mean these things. I'm like,
because he killed his brother.
isn't
Like what?
yeah, I was like,
It
okay,
would
he's
be.
going on with his life that he killed his brother. And I'm supposed to feel sorry. Like I was just like, huh?
Oh, by the way, I wanted to say this earlier, but I wanted to let you speak. Earlier you mentioned like, you don't like that a lot of abuse or a lot of that stuff starts in the beginning. And you said like you haven't really read a lot of stuff like that. And I just realized this entire time there's a genre of books, a subgenre of books, which have this exact concept. It's
No,
called
but it's
bull.
not it's
No, no,
not
no. But
under
it's called bully romance, and I realized I've read so much bully romances,
that's
like,
why.
it's actually crazy because so for me, I'm just like, I hate to say this, but bully romances handled it better than it ends with us because like in the very beginning, like I actually just read so before Verity, it's actually crazy. The if you had asked me what did I read 2 weeks ago, this would have been my answer. I read a book, hold on. I read a book called no, 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 where is it? It's called Cruel Prince by A.
Oh, you
Jade.
told me about this.
And by the way, it it is so it's so bad. Like it's so bad.
And it has
But
such high reviews.
it's actually good. Like it's so bad, but it's good because it
Wait,
embraces it.
why?
No, because it embraces how ridiculous everything is and how
Ah, okay.
exaggerated it all is, and it doesn't try to be deep at all. Like it really
Is
shows
it
like
a young adult book?
it is
Because
not
that's the
young adult.
impression I was getting from,
Like with the amount
the
of sex scenes, I hope it's not a young adult book.
oh,
It is.
I
It
didn't know
is.
that, but from the reviews, because I kind of read some of the spoilers, I was like, this is some juvenile shit.
No,
Like,
it's like a CW show. I'm not even joking. But here's something though. Like so the concept of a bully romance is the guy bullies the girl. By the way, hey, for anyone out there who knows of one, is there one where the girl bullies the guy? I would love to read that. That would be fantastic. But anyways, so the concept is like the
hashtag
guy.
feminism.
No, I'm being serious. That would be so interesting. Um, the guy bullies the girl, and they fall in love somewhere along the line. Like normally he bullies the girl because he's secretly in love with her.
Yeah, I've
It's
never
essentially
read
boys
any
over
of those
flowers.
categories.
Like watch Boys Over Flowers. That's literally it. That's what bully romance is like. So some notable bully romance authors. Well, the most notable is probably Penelope Douglas. She wrote Punk 57. She wrote Bully, and I've read those books. I've actually read like if you look at the bully romance list on Goodreads, I've read the top 10. I say that with a mixture of shame and
And pride.
brutal honesty. Like I'm going to be honest here. I've read the top 10 and like there are a lot of parallels with what Colleen Hoover was trying to do. Like she just did it in a serious way, but
But then
like damn, there's so
that's
much.
so
There's so
wrong
many
then.
parallels.
I thought bully romance is just like trying to get the attention, but not necessarily like this where it's physically
No,
abusive.
no, no, no. They that's the thing. They don't abuse them physically, but they do like it's still abuse, emotional
Putting
abuse.
down, yeah, emotional
Like
abuse.
like
See,
like
that's
they
the thing I could never read.
yeah, so like what they
No, like
normally
I could
do.
never voluntarily read it because with Colleen Hoover, I didn't know like I didn't read the synopsis at all. So I was just like, oh, it's a new romance. And because it was, Colleen Hoover's books are sold as airplane books. And airplane books tend to be, oh, light beach reads, something you
Mm.
just, so it's like a light romance. I just thought it would have like a lot of drama, but I didn't think it was this. Like when I started the beginning, the first chapter, I already knew, oh, wait, it's about abuse. So it's like, so it's not romance. And so that's why I went into it with zero expectations, zero knowledge of what it was about. But for bully romance, because it's always categorized as bully, like from the title, you like we said, like bully, like a lot of the titles are very close to what it's called. I wouldn't read it. So if like for Colleen Hoover, this type of book, if I knew what it was, I don't think I would have picked it up. I just read it because
Oh,
I like the cover. Because I'm so shallow, remember?
yeah.
So a lot of the times I do that to myself where I'm just gonna read based on cover, not gonna read any of the synopsis, not gonna look on Goodreads or at the back of the book.
I
I
mean,
just wanna try it.
look at the covers of the books I'm reading right now. Okay, well, ignore this one. This is a book that my girlfriend is reading. But so I just went through It Ends With Us, and I'm also looking through Good Girl's Guide to
I
Murder.
thought
By the
you
way,
read that. I downloaded that as well.
no, no, no. I started reading it before, but then I got distracted with a new book from one of my favorite authors. But now I'm picking it up again, and it is really so well written
I really
and creative.
wanna. I'm curious about the pandemic surveillance.
Yeah, I read this for paper. Yeah, and these are also for grad school, not a master's in business, by the way. Not anything like that.
Not an MBA.
Yeah, and I'm also gonna read through this, but you can see here 44% for Verity.
Hey, it's a
Um,
podcast. You should say out loud the titles of what
yeah,
you're trying to
I'm
show.
reading I'm showing Verity Colleen Hoover by Colleen Hoover, and yeah, it's pretty damn good so far. Um,
I mean, I
I,
wish we could show through a podcast like the covers, the book covers. Look at mine. It looks so beautiful right now, my iPad. So
oh, that
remember
is
the one
really
you
nice.
you recommended, the
Yeah.
inheritance that you sent me? I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm
so
gonna put that.
we're
So it's
gonna
a
read the
trilogy.
Inheritance games soon because the cover. So oh, you also
Beautiful.
downloaded the Sword of Kaigen. I also have that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this one I want to read, the Poppy War. I
I've
don't know
told
why
you
it's
about that.
doing that where it's not showing the book cover.
I've
Yeah, I
told
know
you
you
about.
told me. Yeah, you
Uh,
told me about that, but how it's so dark and tragic.
it gets dark and tragic in the Dragon Republic. I think the first book is still pretty okay, but in the sequel,
Oh,
the
so it's
Dragon
a
Republic,
trilogy? I thought it was just
if you don't okay, so if you want to read the author, but not the trilogy, then read her latest book, Babel, which like I,
Oh,
I mean
I
we were together.
downloaded it because of you. Yeah,
Yeah, like
it's
we were
there.
together.
Babel.
We were traveling through Europe and we were busy the entire time, but I found a way to finish that in less than 2 days. Even though it's like 800 pages on the iPad, but I was obsessed. It's
What do you
just
mean you
so
found a way? A
good.
lot of the times where we're trying to talk to you to we have to go somewhere and you're just reading like a lazy brat.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so good. It's so good. But well, you know what? That's a podcast for another
You
time.
know what? This is for another podcast. Yeah. So Colleen Hoover is amazing. I mean, obviously, like you can agree. It ends
I
with us
think
is the best. But you know what was funny? That when we were discussing this, we were preparing. He said how, oh, let's talk let's do the podcast finally next week and whatever. And then I was like, oh, the new book came out. And then both of us said like it's called It Starts With Us. And we said it at the same time.
Yeah.
And I Googled it because I didn't know either what it was. I just heard that it was coming out. And then I was like, oh my God, it's actually the title.
It makes me
There's
lose
like
faith in life.
she
Like,
had so many years to think about the sequel. Like, so I don't know if it's actually a sequel or a prequel, which would really be annoying. I think it's
oh my
supposed to
God.
be Atlas's
Wait,
perspective.
can I look it up right now? Hold on.
Yeah, just look it up. But to be fair to Colleen Hoover, her covers are just spot on. Like it's so beautiful, especially when you see the hard copies at, bookstores. You will really be, tempted to pick it up and purchase. So, see,
Oh no,
look,
it says
100.
actual sequel. Lily and her ex-husband Ryle have just settled into a civil co-parenting
Okay, so
rhythm
it's an actual
when
sequel.
she
No, but
suddenly
look,
bumps into her first love, Atlas, again. After nearly 2 years separated, she is elated that for once, time is on their side, and she immediately says yes when Atlas asks her on a date. But her excitement is quickly hampered by the knowledge that, though they are no longer married, Ryle is still very much a part of her life, and Atlas Corrigan is the one man he will hate being in his ex-wife and daughter's life. Switching between the perspectives of Lily and Atlas, It Starts With Us picks up right where the epilogue for the gripping, pulse-pounding, best-selling phenomenon It Ends With Us left off, revealing more about Atlas's past and
see,
following Lily
flashbacks.
as she embraces a second chance. Um, this seems unnecessary. Like,
Yeah.
this is a cash grab. Like, but isn't she rich enough? I mean, like all of her other books are
No, I think it's
bestsellers.
because the fans were really wanting for another
But
book with
that's
Atlas,
so
like showing
stupid.
the romance. Yeah, you know why happily ever afters are good? So that you don't see the reality after, like the aftermath.
Yeah.
They should have just left it at that because she's gonna ruin again. Like there's gonna be lots of drama, angst,
Wow,
like abuse.
I have friends in common with Colleen Hoover. Like I have two friends in common with her. Wow.
That's funny.
I'm famous in a way.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Oh God. Uh why do all of these look like sequels to It Ends With Us though?
Yeah.
Like
No,
Ugly
but
Love,
seriously, look at the
reminders of him.
covers. Yeah, the titles. That's why I told you I would never pick up
Now
I
Verity,
call
Verity, I feel like this is the best cover for me. Like it suits, like I was just like, what the fuck is this? You know, I don't know. I couldn't understand it. It's just so weird. And yeah. Oh,
yeah,
by the
but
way, speaking
look,
of bad names, so the son of the main guy in this book, his son's name is Crew, and his last name is Crawford. So his son's name is literally Crew Crawford.
I mean the girl's name is Verity. Did you expect good names?
Well, that wasn't
I
the main
mean,
character. She's the villain. She's the villain.
look, Colleen, is it so hard to just use regular names? That's what I find funny about authors, to be honest. Like they really want to have unique names. So they go with the craziest sounding ones and then they still put it in a modern fiction setting. I'm like, no.
You know what? You know the funniest thing? If they really wanted unique names, the only thing they have to do is make the main character a POC, a person of color. That's all you gotta do. Then you have a
How
unique
dare
name.
you?
I'm being serious.
How dare you?
Listen. Like literally, this I think It Ends With Us would have been so much better if instead of Ryle Kincaid, we had like Takeshi Minamoto or some shit like that. like like
You
whoa,
know what?
like we're
No, that
like
wouldn't be good because then you'll have those cancel culture like, oh, the one time the lead is a
okay,
person
fine,
of
make
color,
her
he's an
Asian.
abuser.
Make her Asian. Make her
Oh, so Asians are stupid enough to fall for.
like make her Lily Nguyen or something.
I always find that funny about modern fiction when they do their best to come up with original or unique names. And I'm just like, that's unnecessary because you're not a freaking celebrity where you're trying to name your freaking
Apple,
child
Martin,
Tutu or yeah, like
Apple.
whatever names you. It's just ridiculous. I mean, Apple, North, Chicago. Like, let's name all the Kanye West kids' children. Song.
Saint.
It's insane. Ryle Kincaid actually sounds like those what do you call this? 50s detective stories, like names.
Yeah. Well, now see here, Ryle Kincaid. I have been detective longer than you. Like
No,
it
and
has
then
that vibe.
the reporter is like, "Hey now,
Yeah.
Ace and Ryle," like, no.
Yeah. It is
It
just
can be anything.
yeah. I will
Anything
say
from the 50s.
like I don't know. I feel like this is
The
beneath
most normal
Colleen.
name here was
Yeah.
Alyssa,
Alyssa. Wait, wasn't her
which was the
husband
sister.
named Marshall?
Marshall, though, yeah.
Yeah, Marshall's pretty normal. Uh
Yeah, but I really hate that name.
wait, hold on. Let me open up the book again.
I hate it because of How I Met Your Mother.
No, the dad's name is probably the most normal. Andrew.
Maybe she was inspired by How I Met Your Mother because there's a
I wouldn't be
Marshall and
surprised.
there's a
Marshall
Lily.
and Lily. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oof. That's
but
not a
it bothers me how she's named Lily Bloom.
oh, by the way, can I just add, like, there's a part in this book where she's like in the beginning where she points out like Ryle is wearing a Burberry shirt, and then Lily says like I've never even hung out with like someone who can afford to buy a Burberry shirt. And I'm just like, yo, 4 pages ago, you literally said it was the funeral of the prodigious Andrew Bloom, adored mayor and owner of the most successful real estate agency within the city. And I'm like, you're telling me your family didn't have money? Like in all your flashbacks, I could smell the money. And like you got left behind enough money to open your flower shop. Like you're not broke. Like I was just weirded out by this. Like, does the author not know how much a Burberry shirt is? Like it's actually
Yeah,
like
I
your dad was probably wearing more expensive clothes as a mayor and a successful
no, and you know
business
what's
owner.
crazy? Like,
Like,
especially in the US, I think Burberry shirts aren't expensive.
I mean, it's not as cheap as like Uniqlo, I guess, but
No, but I mean, for designer brands,
like a
that's the
full
low.
like a Burberry shirt is like it starts at $100, like $150. So
Yeah.
you're telling me you don't have a single friend, like who could have? I mean, I'm not like shaming people, but it just doesn't make sense considering your dad was rich. Like I'm just saying,
I want this to be the clip for
yeah.
promotion where you're just like, really? That's the most jarring thing that the author has done. That she didn't know anyone with a Burberry shirt.
I'm just saying. I feel like woman, you are
It's
not
like,
rich. Like you
again,
are not poor.
another,
You are
it's like
privileged.
another soundbite of like, look, abuse aside.
No, it's aside. Like no, but okay. So she was able to afford an MBA. It's called an MBA. Colleen, please, please. It's called MBA. She was able. Her parents were able to afford to
Oh,
pay
and
for her
plus the
MBA.
thing is, this is based in the US. Nobody says a master's degree in business.
Yeah,
I mean,
no
no
one.
one in their right mind actually says it either way, like even in Europe. But
Yeah.
still, you could argue that in some countries you would say master's, like you would try to say the full thing
Mm-hmm.
because maybe it's not as common. But in the US, everyone's always like, I have an MBA from
Exactly.
Stanford.
There
Like,
is
there's just no way.
no way. And can I just add? I don't think the author knows how people who studied business actually behave and act and think. Like,
Yeah.
is that fair to say? Like, I'm allowed to say. Like, it doesn't like when I read the main character, she doesn't seem business savvy at all. and I understand that there are a lot of people who have attained MBAs and they're not business savvy, but I literally don't get that vibe at all from her.
Her educational background wasn't really demonstrated at all.
It wasn't
Like,
like
so
talking
it
about
was just,
gardening.
it's just one of those things where I just want to substantiate that this character is intelligent by this and this, and then it's
Yeah.
not really shown.
The worst part is like I would have respected her even more if she had just said like, oh, she has a bachelor's degree in communications or media or whatever. As long as it actually relate, like we actually see it
No,
come up in her
or
character,
no,
like
the thing is, or you could just not make
agriculture.
it up. No, you don't have to mention education. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
like it was
But I
just a
think
weird.
that's what she was trying to um she needed that additional thing just to show that, you know what, even the most educated people or whatever, they can be
Oh,
in. I know what that I think
that's
that's what she was trying
worse.
to do.
Oh, I hate that.
Like,
That's terrible.
so
Oh, by the way,
because people always assume that those in like more unfortunate situations are the ones commonly in
oh,
abusive
anyone who
relations.
assumes that is a fucking terrible person. So, like, I wouldn't pander to those garbage people. Ugh, ugh. But
It's
yeah, like, I
it's just so lovely to have such an open-minded podcast.
no, like if people think that only people in abusive situations are less fortunate, then
It's just so
they are
wonderful
truly
how
unfortunate.
inclusive you are, how you welcome people.
No, those people are awful. I don't want to. Oh,
Please continue to
abuse.
listen to the
The
5 people still listening to this
abuse
podcast.
happens to like abuse can happen anytime, anywhere. Yeah. Okay. So,
Okay,
what's your final rating? Mine is 4 out of 10. Like it's barely. It's
mine
like a
is
below average book.
mine is 3.5 out of 5 because I'm going by Goodreads ratings.
Oh, Goodreads rating. Wait, hold on. I know I rated this on Goodreads.
But when I read it, I think I rated it pretty high. I think I rated it 5.
Okay, hold on. Let me see my rating. I rated it 3 stars on Goodreads. I think if I could rate it 2.5, I would.
Yeah,
But
I
you
rated
don't
it 5.
like I don't have the option to rate 2.5 on Goodreads. So yeah, that's 4 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll put it 4 now because, rereading it probably a few months ago, I was just like, it's not as good, but it's one of those books for sure that um interesting read, but you won't read it again. Like,
Yeah.
I love rereading, but this wasn't one
I
of those
hate
books.
rereading. So this was
Yeah,
painful
you
for
hate
me.
rereading. Yeah, you hate rereading. So for me, I enjoy rereading, but the fact that I won't read it again, because as I said, this is not my genre. Like, I don't like it's not my vibe. It's either okay, go really dark all the way where it's crime, or just romance. Like, don't
Yeah.
mess with me and like freaking put me in this roller coaster. So the reason why I read it and I enjoyed it was because I didn't have any expectations. So I was like shocked that this was in romance. And
Yeah.
then when I came across it, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I've never read anything like this. And that's why, and the reason why is because I don't go into the bully romance genre. So yeah, so definitely 3.5 because I still think the writing was beautiful. I will
Yeah.
defend that. And I'm just hoping that in her other books she's not doing the flashbacks so much because it's really
I'm reading
frustrating.
Verity, and it's so actually this is not a spoiler, but the way she does the flashbacks here, it's so much better, and it actually adds a lot to it. So I won't explain
Yeah,
it, but
because
let
that
me just
one
say
is
like
a
it's way
thriller,
better.
right?
Like
Yeah,
yeah,
because it's a
it's more like a
thriller
thriller.
setting. So a
It's
lot
way
of the
better.
thrillers,
Way
that's what I'm
better.
saying. Like, crime novels, like it depends on your genre. There are really genres where flashbacks work, and a lot of that even in shows, it works with the crime series. But imagine a romance, all these flashbacks, you're like, what the frick? I think the only other romance that I was like, this is really like so brilliantly done with flashbacks is The Spotless of wait,
What? The
no, not
Spotless?
Spotless. Um spot no, what is it? Eternal
Are you talking about a
what
movie?
is it?
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Spot yeah, that one.
Oh,
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That
Spotless.
flashbacks there. No, I wasn't saying the spot. I was thinking like, is it the spotless of Eternal Sunshine or the eternal? No, I
Oh
didn't know which
God.
one went first.
Yeah.
So that movie did the flashbacks brilliantly, and it was still a romance.
Hmm.
But for the most part, just don't do flashbacks if you're not that familiar with it for romance, because it's literally like the there was that one book. P.S. I love you. Ay, the turmoil like it just
Yeah.
bothered me so much because it was her trying to move on from her dead husband, and it was just like, no, don't do this to me. The emotions of just going back and forth. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't want to do that either.
but for this case, I still go with 3.5. Colleen did a good job in terms of her writing was very easy to read. Just the flashbacks were jarring, but at the end of the day, it was a good like good delve into the abusive kind of relationship mindset.
Yeah.
And of course there were also so many flaws because let's be real, it really is different if you cannot relate to it at all. Because for us, like we're going into it from we try to go through it in an objective mindset, but at the end of the day, we will put our mind into it. We're like, would this really happen? Like it's so obvious he was an abuser. So it was
Yeah.
good because it's trying to educate you on, some people just have this dilemma where they just
And
don't have any self-respect.
yeah, and some people they just accidentally killed their brother when they were a kid, and that's why
Yeah,
they
and
have
and
to
that's
beat
why
their
it's
wives.
okay. And that's
Yeah.
why it's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that was so stupid though. Like I agree with you with that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
let's end the podcast there.
Oh, okay, so the next
And
episode will be about a book that I recommended to my sister that she apparently hated. We haven't talked about it at all. It
yeah,
is Atlas 6. Yes.
the Atlas 6.
Yeah.
What's up with is this a theme? Atlas? Is
Oh
Atlas
my
following us
God. Don't
around?
don't don't ruin the Atlas 6 for me.
Yeah, so
So
that's gonna be interesting because that
as a sneak peek for
connects
everyone,
to it and
I
it's
g-
with us.
I gave the Atlas 6 a full 5 stars on Goodreads.
Can you see
Uh,
mine?
Hold on, let me scroll down. Let me scrolly all the way down. Oh, by the way, Chandler Ainsley also gave it a full 5 stars.
Of
You
course.
gave it 3 stars.
Yeah. So we'll do that next. So
Yeah.
tune in because this time we promise it's not gonna take 7 months. We'll do it within a year.
Don't make promises for me. How dare you?
Okay.
But yeah, so my name is Jian,
My name is Nikki.
and we're the Booklings. Catch us next time.
Bye.